Alright guys, welcome. We're looking today at the 49 attack U Keepstar. Well, this is the final timer, so hopefully we can see some Titans on grid. There's already plenty forming. Yeah, so we are seeing now more and more Super and Titans are in grid, as well as some carriers and things like that. There are 3 Fortizars anchored off of this Keepstar. So that's a good indication of how many of the attacking forces we're planning on bringing on today. Currently local is set at 1300, so we'll see how high it gets. Hi Malco, how are you doing today? It's just me here, it's just me, which is Sully. So hopefully we'll have some people pop in later, but for now, you have to listen to my lovely voice. Unfortunately, Malco, I only have one character that's in Jita, and at the moment he's war decked by about 6 different groups. And plus, high sec kind of being a null sec liver, high sec for me is really quite a scary place because I'm not used to that many neutrals and local and things like that, and you kind of can't tell who your enemy is. In 0-0, you know if they're not blue, they're your enemy. Let's have a quick D scan. We can have a look and see just how many Super and Titans are currently on grid. Then the chat there is that's the current D scan. So we at the moment have 212 Titans, 169 Super Carriers, 94 Carriers, and 76 Force Auxiliaries. Because this is an active Keepstar, we are unlikely to see Dreadnoughts in this attack because the Keepstar has a Doomsday Fit during the previous reinforced timers. Also, there was force auxiliaries that accidentally warped in with the Titan groups and literally just got doomsayed straight out. Yeah, so currently local has just about to hit 1,500 pilots. There is no real fleets from the Imperium here at the moment. It is all just the attacking force. There is a Sinojammer. In fact, there are multiple Sinojammers anchored in system, with one of them being online. So the attackers are unable to open a Sino here to bring in reinforcements. So we have to see if any subcapital forces show up or any capitals through the Stargates. Plastic, yes, this is the final timer for this Keepstar. So if there isn't a defense from the Imperium, then it will subsequently fall. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any characters involved in the fleets for this, just due to time constraints. So I won't be able to give you updated percentages on the Keepstar, but we'll be able to see if there is any defensive showing. Yeah, I think most pilots here, Luinda, were hoping that there was going to be a fight, and there may still be a fight. We just have to wait and see what the Imperium plans. It's quite difficult because of the Sanajama. There, it really is difficult to bring in any real forces, and obviously with Pappy having a larger super capital force on grid at the moment because they were able to cycle the jammers to their effect. So what Pappy have done is they turned the jammer off, lit their signers, and then onlined it again as quickly as possible. So they was able to jump their capitals in at their opportune moment, whereas the attackers haven't. So any capital forces that the attackers are, the Imperium are bringing, um, will have to be taken through the Stargate, which is very risky. So Lord Tiger, there's after some info. This is currently the first Goon Swarm Keepstar that has come under attack in Quirius/Delve. Um, this was the first and quite a strong Keepstar, with it being on to the Fort Echo Stargate, which is the gate to Pappy Homeland. So once this system fell, an iHub has been secured here long enough, which is the 35 days minimum, for a Sinosol jammer to be active. That allows Pappy forces here to field these capitals with no risk of a Sinosol field on top of them and dreadnoughts or any dread bombs, something like that. So Pappy are able to control this system from that Sino jammer. As we're seeing more and more capitals into grid. Another D-scan. There's a current D-scan there, so we're up to 225 Titans with 174 super carriers. Eagle Claw says, unless a block team takes out the jammer. The issue with the Signer jammers as a structure now with uh, Upwell, it's got a damage cap, so there can only be a certain amount of damage applied to it, which means that to actually reinforce it does take a significant time. Whereas previously, when the Signer jammer was a POS module, there wasn't any damage cap. So if the attacking force was able to say log off some dreadnoughts next to the Signer jammer, which has been previously done, they could then log in and quickly kill it right under the attacker's nose. Whereas here, it's hard to do such a thing just because of the damage cap on the Signer jammers. Let's go have a look at one of these Fortizars. We can just get an idea of just the capitals here. So this as well is with the new update that came with the supercarrier resize. So we can see here just the difference in sizes now. Where you can see the supercarriers are not as big as, but they are still no longer dwarfed by Titans. So the supercarrier, the new supercarrier module, I don't suspect there'll be much action from it today, because this is a fully online Keepstar. I don't think there'll be many sub-capital losses. I think a lot of the losses that may come around would end up being capitals or things like that. Let's go have a look at the NC Titan fleet as they are landing on grid with the Keepstar, which the timer isn't for another 2 minutes, but they're obviously willing to get into position, as well as we can see Test Alliance in their fleet down there with one of their Test Alliance Komodo pilots. So Nick, this is 49 TAC U, 6U, which is the entrance point from Happy Homeland into Quirius, and was one of the first systems, one of the first key systems. Yes, this is the entry point from Catch into Quirius. So, this for the stream settings, we do have effects on, but we do not have turret launchers, so we won't be able to see any turret fire, I believe. I'll try and enable it. I don't know if it will take effect. So we can see here now that you have just anchored up a Hector bubble. That's both for offensive and defensive. So they're able to secure it. So if one of their Titan pilots does disconnect, he doesn't warp off and become vulnerable to a subcapital fleet. Even whilst these fleets were jumping into system, my camera client actually crashed, which is why we started a little bit later than I planned, just because of the sheer number of pilots that were coming in. We're just about to hit 2,000 pilots in system. And as you can see, the Keepstar is now out of reinforce, it is vulnerable, and it is under attack and paused. With fire coming in from both the Titan groups currently on grid. Yep, so currently the red blips you can see are just interceptors currently sat at the Keepstar, just kind of, I believe they'll just be watching the fire show. We can see more and more pilots are beginning to enter onto the grid. If we look around, we can still see there is still a large number of Titans and Supers that have still not warped onto this grid. Yeah, Malco said in chat that he was trying to see if he could scroll the mouse and stuff. I've heard that a few people do that. Luckily, I do not have any sounds on this stream, and I don't have a soundboard to play any hold timers. But being someone who watches other streams as well, is quite easy to fall into that trap of which one of my characters just had a shield alarm go off. So let's go have a look at the test lines Titans. I think are just out of my range of view. There we go. In the camera this way. Because of the way I've positioned the camera, so it is just at the edge of my view range. So for those that are just joining us, we are in 49 TAC U6U, and this is the first Imperium Keepstar owned by Goonswarm that will be that is under attack in Quirius. And if the Imperium are unable to mount a defense against these Titans, then it will be the first Keepstar to fall. So here's a good indication of one of the changes that have come in this week with the super carriers. That Leviathan has since doubled in size with CCP's super carrier update. The all super carriers are now twice the size, as well as having a new module. It does, however, affect their bumping a fair bit, I believe. So I have heard reports that they are both easier and prefer bumping a lot more than obviously when they're shorter. We can see now there's a good example of the wyvern next to the Leviathan. It is no longer completely dwarfed. It actually represents a super capital size. And as well with the Wyvern and Aeon, they also did receive their damage bonus increase from 5% to 7.5%. So that was quite a significant amount for these supers. I think it's kind of bringing them more in line with the Nyx and the Hell in terms of damage. We're seeing that local is at 2,000 with the pilots here that are shooting at the Keepstar. There is actually no tie-dye currently in system, so this Keepstar is currently being attacked in real time. There is 0 tie-dye here. We have a look at all brackets. You can see that there are some fighters beginning to swarm up this way, however not much. We are now seeing some offensive from the Keepstar. Yeah. So as I was saying about in chat as well, there is a Sinojammer present. There are currently 3 anchored, and one of them is online. So there are no Sinos that are available to be opened here. We can actually see the Keepstar has also launched fighters in an attempt to try and do some damage, whilst we are seeing the what looks to be the aftermath effects of the Doomsday that had fired. Hey, Metal. Roughly speaking, 265 to 295 billion. Yeah, because of the mineral shortage and changes, they are quite expensive these days. It's just over 1 billion units of titanium to build a Keepstar, which is quite difficult to get together in the mineral shortage. Mm. Yeah, before the middle update, the cheapest Keepstar I've been able to build was for 210 billion. One second, Metal. Apparently the stream is unable to hear you. I think it's more the OBS. 2 seconds. Am I talking from you, Metal?
Voice check for Matterall. How's this for being loud enough? If not, it's OBS. Oh, okay, it's better.
There
Looks
we
like
go.
it's fine.
Yeah. I had to modify the OBS a little bit.
So all I asked was the question from the chat, how much is a Keepstar worth? And then we heard the answer, and I said it was a full 100 billion more than it used to be.
Yeah, they have increased a fair bit.
And then I asked, and then you're all caught up. Does this look like it's going to be uncontested?
It does, unfortunately. Happy Forces have 2,000 in local. I'm just getting an accurate D-scan for the chat as well now. But there is 2,000 Happy Pilots on grid. And there's a D-scan going into chat now. There is 230 Titans on grid. So we can see there that the Wyvern from Brave that we had selected did just warp off. chances are, because he sustained damage from the Keepstar's Doomsday, which unfortunately we don't see the effect of, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, you catch that message from Billy there, testing the recloner on the fort.
Ooh. Which fort, really? There's 3.
Fort Winter Nightmares.
That would be this fort. So here we have the Robert the Bruce. So we can see there the effect on his ship.
Oh yeah,
so we see the beacon is almost like the beacon is lit.
It's also boosting. Boy, these super carriers are really competing with Titans now, aren't they, in scale?
Yeah, so with the scale of supers, they are. We saw earlier on the stream that the Wyvern next to the Leviathan is now taller. We can see there the Nightmare has just materialized. We might see another one in a moment.
Huh. Why does it have effects? Is that
so? The effects that have appeared around the ship are for when a ship has appeared onto it. So we saw the beacon at the back there, and it's actually physically viewable on the ship. So that isn't normally present. The little beacon at the rear of the Wyvern. So you can actually see when they have a module fit. It would seem as well. Similarly, that you can with turrets, and then you can see there that the Nightmare is appearing out. Being assembled in space.
Yeah, I can see it constituting. And a new Nightmare is born.
So this is quite a nice shot in that you can see the Keepstar battle raging in the background, whilst we have a supercarrier here that is able to provide support for its fleet. So the new module that has been brought in with this latest change, it does require fuel blocks for these pilots to almost be reborn onto this ship.
Is that new information, the fuel blocks? Is that something that was released before?
We knew that there would be a fuel cost, but I don't believe it was known how much the actual cost would be. But it's not a great cost. It is 10 fuel blocks per rebirth, so to speak. And with that, it now has a limiting factor. However, the limiting factor is still, I believe, the ship maintenance bay, but it means that one supercarrier can't hold like 500 frigates.
There's a ton of bumping going on over there on the left. That might be.
That's all the Nightmares regrouping.
Okay. Because we wanted to look at how these motherships or these super carriers behave next to each other. They're so much bigger. They're going to be bumping into each other a lot more. Yeah, it's a good shot. You see the Keepstar fight way over there.
Yeah. So we can see the Wyvern has retethered, so he's unlikely to be doing any more. But let's go see if we can have a look at some of these.
A good point. So you can't bring in new ships when you're tethered.
Yes, when you activate the module, it does break your tether. I believe is the intended function. But here's a good representation. So we can see here the Aeon, or Eon, I believe, as it's pronounced. Compared to the Leviathans, we have the Hells on top. Compared to Ragnarok's, just the size difference now.
Yeah.
When the Aeon previously on Tranquility did have its size changed. I heard reports that players were getting confused, thinking that it was a Titan that had undocked rather than a super carrier, just because of the sheer size, and no one expected this change because it was a small hidden change that CCB did. I'm not sure if it was intended or not.
Well, it looks like the motherships are about a good half the size of a Titan now. They seem to be like a quarter before.
Yeah, so if we head up to the other Titan group, I can have a better visual because they are slightly in my camera range. So you can have a bit more of a maneuver. Though I don't believe there's any super carriers in this NC group. We have some here. They are just appearing in their natural state. I should put it as a fleet warping.
Yeah, I thought I saw Nyx. There's one on the left there. This is a lot of super capital ships here. And this is what happens when you control who gets in and out of this system, jump range wise.
Yeah, with the Sana Jambo, it really does give these super capitals just a huge umbrella of protection. Because the biggest threat to the Supers and Titans, since especially with the changes CCP have done over the last 6 to 12 months of reducing their hit points and making them more vulnerable to fleets and dreadnoughts, the Cyanogemma means that no one is able to deploy a dread bomb onto these.
And that's really the only fear that the Pappy fleet would have, is to get counter dropped and also unexpectedly and lose some capital ships. It's a tremendous amount of firepower brought to bear on that Keepstar in this system that used to be the Initiative's capital system. This was one of the main gates to Aquarius and into Delve. It took weeks and weeks, if not a month and a half, 6 weeks to breach, and they couldn't ever cross it. They had to come around and attack it from the north.
Yep, so in chat I've just placed a up-to-date D scan, as well as we now have a local scan as well. We are into, so tie-dye is now beginning to increase. We're up to 38%. For the largest part, we didn't have any tie-dye. However, now the Keepstar is getting low enough. More of the subcapitals are going to want to get onto the kill mail, so they'll be warping in. So we will start to see tie-dye now as more and more ships are getting into range of it to try and get on this kill mail.
So for those that might be confused, initially you bring in the heavy damage, you wear that thing down until it's almost dead, and then you let everybody else come and feed on it a little bit so they get to register on this 200 to 300 billion kill mail. That keeps your time shorter since you don't have to deal with a ton of people all at once creating tie-dye. You don't have to deal with that until the very end. So that's what's going on now. This started. How long ago did this start?
We started the stream and it had 15 minutes on it, so this has been ongoing for 20. Yeah, it's been under attack for 20 minutes now.
Rather short work, all things considered.
With the Titans, there was very little tie-dye created from the Titan Supers. So it's really the main tie-dye here is from all these sub-capitals getting onto grid and subsequently wanted to get onto the kill mails.
The repair timer didn't even go anywhere. It's at 29
No,
minutes,
it was
54 seconds.
the repair timer is literally just the time it took for enough titans to lock it to pause it.
That's just a lot. Its percentage, I can't read its damage percentage. Can you?
Unfortunately, not. I don't have any pilots that are actively gauging the Keepstar, but we have pilots in chat who have said it's at roughly 24% and counting down. So,
Okay, thanks for that help.
so the neutrals we are seeing, they are just synergy of steel. We haven't really seen much of them this war, so they haven't been added to the contact list for the camera. So I'll add them now. They should hopefully all disappear, or at least become blue. These neutrals are Dread Bomb. Dread Bomb previously was on the attacking side of the war. I'm unsure of their position at the moment because I know they did want to withdraw from the war front. So, yeah, they have been causing some difficulties up in Innsmother. So we'll have to see what happens with them.
Well, I don't know what range they're at. It's kind of hard to tell from this perspective, but why would they just be allowed to hang out?
So the only real threat to them is the PDS from the Keepstar. I'm unsure if the Keepstar's effects are working at the moment. Hence why there wasn't any Doomsday effects coming off of the Keepstar. So there may or may not be PDS active at the moment, but that's the only real threat to them. And as long as they're outside of the 35-kilometer range of a PDS, there's nothing that can really damage them unless the Keepstar itself decides to shoot at them. But given that there are now dreadnoughts and other ships in range which are susceptible to the Doomsday from the Keepstar, which is a massive amount of damage, as we saw previously from my streams where I was firing my Titan's Doomsday, they can cause significant damage to dreadnoughts. The Keepstar has a more powerful version of my Titan's Doomsday and can one-shot capitals completely off the field. Yes, we didn't see anything to do with the Keepstar is running its PDS and Doomsday, so there's obviously an issue with the camera and it's just not showing up.
So for those wondering, the Keepstar its fate was sealed when the system was taken over and the iHub started to get defended for Pappy, allowing them to secure this system and to take full control of who gets in and out of it through jumps, not through gates, but through jumps. I'm sure that the Imperium hasn't thought twice about this. This is in Aquarius, it's not in Delve, so it's a little bit different. But it is still a notable Keepstar going down. This is 49U. It's a famous system, and not only here but in Serenity. It's got a ton of history. This system, and it serves as an entry point into this 3-region area. That is a lot of lasers.
Yeah, we can get here. So this is all the current super capitals and titans and sub capitals firing at this Keepstar, and you can see there. You see the lasers from the avatars. You see the Ragnarok cannons as well as the Erebus firing because of the Leviathans and Komodo that is on field shooting missiles. We aren't seeing those effects.
How's this volume, Nick? Is this better? Yeah, maybe I should just keep quiet because it's a nice shot. Let's just take this in.
Let me remove some of the on screen. Let me Yeah, so I've turned up my volumes. The metal should be significantly louder now. As the stream's saying, he's a little bit quiet, so he'll be slightly louder than he was previously.
Yeah, well, probably for the best. What a beautiful shot. Good job recording this. This is a historic takedown. I mean, this will be definitely a data point in this war. Are they all using scorched? What color is scorched? Is it red?
Yeah, so it was because they are at such long range. These are 200-kilometer ranges at least. They are all going to be likely using beams, which means they'll be using Aurora rather than Scorch.
Okay. Aurora. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I struggle to remember with the Erebus what the long range ammo is for it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So for people who aren't that familiar with Eve, all you guys that are familiar, you're gonna roll your eyes, but this is good information for newer players. There's two types of lasers out of Amar, and these are the long range ones, and they're long range because you don't want any of these big expensive ships to get hit by that fully operational Keepstar.
I do believe. We have a look. There's the NC Moloch. Where's he hiding? There he is.
That is not a Moloch.
So it is even possible to see and tell.
That is a Moloch.
I believe the Moloch was on grid first. If we find one that is shooting, oh, let's have it right here. It is even possible to tell with the for the new players that are wondering this. BVPs are especially useful because it is possible to tell what weapon is being fired without them actually shooting either. So the in-game model for the beam laser and the pulse laser are different. Because here at the top of the Titan, that the actual modules would look different depending on what it was using.
I remember a lot of that when the Trinity visual update hit in like 2007. They were talking about being able to see that a ship had armor plating on it. So you could visually make tactical decisions, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, unfortunately with the low slots and plates and stuff, it isn't possible, but it is very useful in small and medium-sized PvP. If you look at a ship that you're wondering what it's got fit, most typically an easy example of this is autocannons and artillery are very different models. So you're able to quickly look at the pilot's ship and realize what he's using as a weaponry. Especially considering artillery is long range with autocannon short range, you want to know where you need to be.
Yeah, that's such good rich gameplay. Be able to tell what your opponent's preferred range is going to be because range is essential to a fight.
We are going to see the Keepstar fall any moment now, so we'll get into a nice overlooking position again. Ah, unfortunately the effects weren't on for some reason with the Keepstar with me, which is very odd.
Oh, it looks like it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, which is very bizarre that we didn't see effects load there.
Yeah, it just converted to wrecked.
Which is very, very odd.
Whoa, rotating. It's being. Okay, that's not realistic. What's happening? It's being tractor beamed somewhere.
Very much like a yeah.
I think that ship should. Uh, oh,
The
really?
lone,
Did it get salvaged?
yeah,
All
the
right. So what you just saw was the graphics. The thing blew up. You didn't see the explosion. It turned into
it's very
a
odd that
destroyed
explosions.
model.
Yeah, explosions wasn't enabled for some bizarre reason because I haven't touched this camera in well, 3 weeks since the last explosion. So my apologies there, but we did see what happens if you are on no explosions. You just see a big poof.
Yeah. And then it swung around because somebody was tractor beaming it and salvaging it. So it disappeared when it was completely
Yeah,
salvaged. Which, I think it's unfortunate, but CCP could create some interesting gameplay around salvaging of dead keep stars.
yeah,
Instead of them just disappearing like a small piece of garbage, they should be taken apart over a long period of time.
yeah. And this is very much likely to be the Rorqual that did salvage, said
Yeah,
Keepstar.
that's probably Billy. My money is on Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's test. There it is. Totally gobbled up.
So we'll have to wait and see when we get the kill up on the final numbers there. But that is the first Imperium Keepstar to have fallen in the Delve Quirius area. And very much uncontested.
I think Carneros was actually the gunner in that Keepstar, if I'm not mistaken. He says he left as a corpse. Poor guy. Carneros being the leader of the Bastion, for those who don't know.
Yeah,
All around swell guy.
yeah, he was in system earlier, and I did no. I was curious then if he was going to be gunning, but I'm not sure if he had plans or obviously he may not have been able to say, but yeah. So he did indeed leave as a corpse because unfortunately, when the Keepstar detonates, everyone that is inside it is just popped out into space.
Yeah. I've gone to Keepstar against Goon Swarm. They were attacking my Keepstar at the time. And when they do it right, there's not much that you can do. If they're out of your range, and if they're using supers only instead of dreads or carriers, there's not much you can take out with the Doomsday.
Yeah. So the Keepstar is up on Zekiel already. Zekiel's value, however, has placed it at 216 billion, but it has also then valued the Keepstar 100 billion below its actual sale value at the moment. So it's very much likely a 300 to 315 billion destruction.
Wow. They've gone up so high. Didn't know it was that much. That is a real incentive to not lose them. So there are 43 more Keepstars in Delve, and Imperium may very much want to use all of them as battle points. Um, but there's also an incentive to take them down, which is it's going to be interesting to see which direction they go.
Yeah, so here we are. We'll just begin to see slowly but surely these supers and titans just beginning to extract back to YZ9, which is the Pappy attacking Keepstar, where we are all home based at the moment. He'll be jumping out and getting safe. We can see there the a malediction from Dreadbomb is attacking a malediction interceptor from Evictus, so clearly they were just around to kind of get on the kill mail.
Well, as we're watching them leave the field after destroying the Keepstar, that is Pappy leaving the field after destroying the Imperium Keepstar and 49U. Uh, we could talk a little bit about what happened today in EVE Online with the patch notes. I guess today was day 2. Did you notice anything?
For specifically for today's patches, I've not seen too much over the day, but over these last couple of days since Tuesday, there has been some quite significant changes that have happened with Eve. I think the most notable one that everyone has seen and heard, obviously, today is the supercarrier one, and we saw there the supercarrier module, which the name for I keep forgetting the name of it.
Well, it's not easy. I'll find it. It's the recloner of some sort.
The tactical capsuleer recloner module allows for a pilot to, when he is killed in battle, to respawn on a supercarrier if he has the nanoheuristic clone mapper implant. Cool. That is quite a tongue twister there.
Yeah. Did they say implant? Because it's supposed to be
It's an
something
implant
boost.
slash booster. They've both referred to it as an implant and as a booster. It, however, does act like a booster. It gives you 6 hours plus the extended duration with your biology skill, which allows you to respawn multiple times. So typically, I foresee these being very useful in interdictor pilots who, through my own experience, are very much suicidal at most times. Just going and bubble and then just don't make it out. With this booster and this module now on a supercarrier, with the increased ship capacity up to 5 million, it does mean that you won't have to leave grid and then travel back through tie-dye. You will be able to respawn on the same grid in another fit ship ready to go out, which then means you're straight back in, able to keep the fleet bubbled, or if it is in the case that we saw earlier with Deathlights and their Nightmares, it then allows for any battleship pilots who have died to reship. It's quite a useful feature and saving a lot of time of having to go back to your home station to reship. So I'll be very interested to see how that develops and what they find does and does not work best in the tactical recloner.
Have you heard much about the ESS? That seems to be the big.
So yeah, the ESS is a very interesting change. So let me bring up the patch notes so people can read through.
So that's the encounter
The encounter surveillance system.
surveillance system, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it does tie in with the dynamic bounty payment system that CCP have deployed.
Right. 2 systems. Let's see. I'll describe them real quick. The dynamic bounty system makes it so that people can't crowd into one system and just kill the NPCs. They have to spread out, or their income will drop all the way down to like 30% eventually. That's the dynamic bounty system. If there's PvP going on, it changes the story. It actually increases to a maximum of 150. So if there's a lot of if you're ratting in a dangerous area where there's a lot of PvP, the system's going to be very rich with NPC money. The second thing is the ESS, the encounter surveillance system, is a mechanism in sovereignty only nullsec that captures part of all the winnings that are being generated from NPC ratting. And there's 2 portions. One portion is to a bank that can be broken into and taken, and another portion to a second bank that accumulates only 10%, but over a long period of time. And keys to that bank are given out possibly at events later on. So CCP will dictate when people get to raid those banks, and those are generating a lot of money very quickly. So by the time CCP gets around to sending people out to destroy those, they're going to be worth quite a bit.
Yeah,
And
so
your observations?
the ESS one, so that really came into effect within the last 24 hours. We've seen huge increases, especially in my areas of space, with roaming gangs. Most notable from them, we have Beyond Bees. What's his corporation called? I forgets my name now.
Bank robbers, I think.
I believe that is it. Yes, bank robbers. The Beyond Bees corporation of bank robbers, which are set to go around in 5-man groups of T1 cruisers. They have been constantly in our intel channels, popping up pretty much anywhere and everywhere, designing to steal these ESSs. And currently, I've seen the highest ESS in our region has gone up to 875 million in the regular payout.
Wow.
So it is very lucrative for
Bandits.
these bank robbers to go around and do it. As such, they are also based out of Pochven, so they are using filaments to get to random nullsec, do their attempted thefts using their specially fit ships. And if they're able to extract back to Pochven, they can then store their loot, resupply, reship if they need to, and go back out. So it is very, very much they are constantly in intel, forcing people who are normally only PvE out into the PvP zone, which is quite a significant change for them. A lot of people in my area, especially, are both mixed about it because it feels almost like forced PvP, and obviously they are seeing their ratting ticks are a lot less, but it is just kind of held for those 3 hours. And as Matt also said with the reserve bank, there is money going into that at the moment. However, there is no keys active. CCP have alluded to how they're planning on releasing them, but there's no real info about them yet. So it'll be interesting to see what those reserve banks end up getting up to, and if it's the keys are going to be limited or if they'll be in abundance.
We should also say that Jita got a huge upgrade visually. It's an amazing city like city in the sky. And right now, there are login rewards for fireworks. So every day that you log in, you get a new batch of fireworks. The fireworks
So
themselves are fine, but you need to use those fireworks. There's a picture of Jita in order to
here's
get
my camera
skins.
in Jita.
Nice. There is the city in the
Yeah.
clouds. And when you use the fireworks, you will generate skins for yourself. So you got to make sure to use them. They want you to spend them on this particular week to celebrate Cheetah. So there should be just a showering of fireworks all around Cheetah. Is it possible for you to zoom in and see if there are any fireworks now? I saw some earlier.
Let me just
You
check.
know,
Yeah, it's got
on
full
yesterday's
effects.
show, we actually analyzed um, the structures that are there. It's not just the G244 that you're looking at, right? On the right hand side, there's a few extra structures. One apparently a casino, the other one a mining drill. That mining drill reaches all the way down to the moon. You can see the moon's being drilled.
This
There's a
isn't
lot of
so much
infrastructure
a
down at the moon.
drill. This is I believe, as declared a space elevator. The drill itself, I believe, is the planet. But this
Oh,
beam here is actually a space elevator.
right. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, space elevator. You're right.
Every so often you can see a shuttle does ascend up the line. In fact, here is one coming as we speak.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of work has gone in from the design team here into these structures, with it being the main trade hub as well. We see there the interchange of these as it will both be received into the structure and continue on back down to the planet. Yeah, huge visual updates. Um, For those that were unfamiliar, this is what the Jita station looked like previously, which was just the standard Caldari station. And obviously now you have a huge increase up here in both sides. I can remember where exactly it was. Here it is.
Yeah, it's right about there. The monuments there on your left. Oh, look at that. Is that a replica of the actual monument in Iceland?
That is
Yeah, it
indeed.
is.
This was found. I first heard about it on Reddit, so I had to go and see for it myself. And I say this is a replica of the monument that CCP have in Iceland, during which, if you were subscribed at that time, you have your pilot's name is etched onto this monument somewhere. I believe there is a dev blog about it, as well as an online tool to help find your character. I do believe I have some of mine in there, and yes, there's a lot of pilot names there.
Yeah, I think also on the 10th anniversary, they took all the pilots in EVE Online, put them in a capsule, and launched it into space.
There.
I mean, real life space.
Yeah, launched it into the Eve space. Kind of was just
Yeah,
yeah.
no big deal.
But it's quite interesting to know that CCP Games were the first company, I believe, to put a physical art monument into the main country that obviously their production is, which is Iceland, with the characters and pilots from the game. It was quite a significant thing. I remember playing whilst the monument was announced, and it had me very excited all those years ago.
Yeah, I think that emphasizes how important the community is. It's half the development, right? It's the life. It's the life of the game, but it's also half the development. Really shape this game with a lot of the things they do in it.
Yeah. We also, over the last couple of patches as well, we did see a couple of minor changes that have come in. I just had a Discord message from someone I know who runs Triglavian sites, who wanted me to mention that they did add in the specialization skill books into the Abyssal Dead Space, which will help hopefully control their prices, as well as make Abyssal site running slightly more profitable, just because it's no longer restricted on resource. That was a nice little change CCP have done recently, because I believe they realised that with the specialization skill books in the LP store, it kind of removed a large chunk of the value from the Abyssal Dead Space.
Yeah, also there's some quality of life changes. Again, we talked about these on yesterday's show, but one of the top ones was that you can now interrupt your locking mechanism. So if you lock a ship, you used to have to wait till it locked and then you could unlock it, but you couldn't do anything until it locked. In tie-dye, that would take a long time. Not that you would change targets that often in a big fight, but nevertheless, if you accidentally lock the wrong thing, you can now interrupt that process. So if you target something and you targeted the wrong thing, you can unlock it before it has to complete. And it's part of a right click menu, possibly part of a radial menu. You'll see a new option there.
So I'm just going to have the patch notes up whilst I move the camera into a different position. As we are seeing, there is, as Malcolm's put, there is a large amount of the fireworks going off at the. There's a beacon in Jita for the expansion parade. And obviously, for one of the today's dailies, it is to fire fireworks at the Mansion Parade itself. So we'll load that up now, and here we can see.
Thanks for the follow, Van Holla. It's a great name, Van Holla. Where is that in relation to everything else?
So the Jita station is somewhere in that space. It is in Jita 44 system. It is as the undock, so it is not very distant. But with it being one of the daily crate rewards, as well as in these crates, you do also get a skin and a character apparel. It does mean that a large amount of pilots are here to shoot at and get their daily rewards.
It certainly is a ton of fireworks. This must be where all the fireworks going. So Sully is the camera guy. He's also Sharon C in chat. Same guy. He's part of TIS. Does our live streaming with us. And yeah, he is in Razor, so he's involved in this war.
So this is a good idea as well, because these ships aren't bumping or anything like that. It's quite easy to see just the scale of the Wyvern here. And now it is indeed taller than the Leviathan if it was on the same plane, but also now it is no longer shorter and smaller than the Force Auxiliary, which is one major problem people had with the introduction of the Force Auxiliaries. It was not their ships or their mechanics, it was just their physical size.
A little something else you should know about my friend Sully here is he has the record for the biggest loot drop in EVE Online history. Because he was quick and it was what are they called? Abandoned structures? What were they called?
It was a abandoned structure in the Forsaken Fortress update.
Forsaken Fortress, yeah. And that update made old buildings that had been abandoned or players had disappeared vulnerable. And so when you destroyed them, their loot dropped. And Sully was able to pick up a bunch of T2 blueprints. I think the overall total ended up being.
So
we estimate like
finished selling off the last few that I kept. We still have a good half a dozen or so that we're keeping, but we're up to 4.6 trillion.
Yeah, that is the biggest drop in history. I don't think anything compares to that.
Yeah, just more and more fireworks are coming off as more and more capsuleers are refusing the fireworks they have gotten, as well as wanting to collect their daily.
I should go do that.
Remember, I was thinking the same thing.
Fireworks, you're generating skins for yourself. The beautiful skins, the fire claw and the scope skins, actually. All right, so our friend Melkor Rex is out there shooting 1,000 pounds of fireworks or 1,000 rounds.
As someone who really does enjoy his fireworks.
You think? Well, I got to take off. Sully, you want to hang around? You're going to finish up.
I believe it will be about time to
Keepstar
wrap
flight.
up.
Oh, Gregorian's here.
Oh, hey, Gregor. Didn't see you jump in. So, how was your experience of 49 attack Keepstar?
I had a lot of wrestling with my game clients because of my clients repeatedly crashed with all that was going on in the system. That was my experience.
So not that good of an experience then with the client crashes.
It was not unexpected.
Yeah, as fleets were jumping in, I did begin I had my camera client crash. Unfortunately, I think that is what may have screwed up our explosions. So we didn't unfortunately see the beautiful Keepstar explosion. It just kind of disappeared in a puff for the stream, just because I believe the settings changed slightly when I reloaded the character as I was scrambling to go live. So unfortunately, we did miss out on that, but we did get to see over 240 Titans, I believe, in the end. Yeah. It was very interesting as well. I'm sure you can agree, Gregorian, that it was a lot better when there isn't as much tie dye. Like we haven't seen that this was a 14-hour Keepstar fight. It was over in less than 45-50 minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected a hull timer to be fought over. I would expect it if they were going to fight it to be on the armor timer.
Yeah. The It's very interesting, especially with obviously the Sino Jammer in the system. It does make the attacking, sorry, the defending a lot harder for these Keepstars because just getting rid of that Sino Jammer is quite difficult, especially with obviously at the end 3 were anchored in the system. Yeah, so the stream's been going now for just under an hour and 15. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. We have just for a quick recap, we have seen now the first Imperium Keepstar has been destroyed in the Quirius Delve area. Obviously, this was in 49 attack in Quirius. Um, and as Metal said earlier, a very key system for both T Tranquility and the Chinese server, just because of the previous battles that have gone in there. And obviously, we have had a lovely recap on today's updates, and we can see here the GT44 parade party. So please do feel free to go and get your daily rewards. You are rewarded with ship skins and character apparel, as well as many, many more fireworks. So feel free to go and get your dailies. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and hopefully I'll see you on the next stream.